Molt bé, sisplau, donem la benvinguda a Jasmijn de Boo, CEO de ProVeg International. Donem la benvinguda al Vegan Fest. Benvinguda, Jasmijn, vens per darrere. Benvinguda, welcome.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure and an honor to have you here. And I just try to introduce yourself. You got an immense curriculum. Would you like to tell us something about your career and your path towards veganism and the role of CEO of ProVeg International? Que nos expliqui ella, li estic dient una mica el seu camí que l'ha portat a ser CEO de ProVeg International i a fer-se vegana.
Yes, thank you. It's great to be
welcome.
here. I became vegetarian at the age of 12 when I saw a transport of pigs going to the slaughterhouse, and I decided I didn't want to contribute to their suffering anymore. And it was very uncommon in the 1980s. I had to explain a lot and defend a lot. People had no idea. There was only 1 or 2 vegetarian burgers. So I decided to make animal protection my life mission, and I studied animal behavior and animal welfare to help them in the best way I could. I was CEO of the Vegan Society for 5 years. And in that time, I already met with Sebastian Joy and Tobias Leenaert, who was here last year. And they were already discussing an organization in 2013. 3 years later, I got involved and helped set up ProVeg. So I've now been with ProVeg for 6.5 years.
6 anys i mig?
Yes, and we had 6 countries, and now we're nearly in 15 countries. So we're active in China, US, Brazil, South Africa, lots of Europe.
Fa poc hi ha hagut els Jocs Olímpics i la Jasmijn és una de les persones, junt amb tot l'equip de ProVeg International, que va convèncer a tots els organitzadors dels Jocs Olímpics d'aportar un menú plant-based. So what about your role in the Olympics plant-based meal?
Yes.
What the feedback from them?
Well, it was fantastic to see that they were actually taking plant-based food options seriously as a way to reduce carbon emissions. And last year at the COP28 in Dubai, ProVeg and 2 other organizations worked with the caterers to provide 2/3 of the catering plant-based.
What about the people? What's the reaction of the people that was there in the Olympics? What they said the organization? The organizers were very, very happy about this?
I think so. And yes. We, as ProVeg, we didn't organize it this time with the Olympics, but we raised awareness in the media, and the BBC picked it up and covered it in a big story. And we hope this will inspire other big events like FIFA or World Cup or others to maybe also do the same next year.
Sí, let's talk about the education initiative. No?
Yes.
Volia demanar-li una mica perquè ProVeg International treballa molt amb les institucions educatives, a les escoles. Com contribueixen aquests programes escolars a un sistema alimentari més sostenible i ètic? Si podries contar-nos alguna història.
Yeah, it's very important because in schools you set the habits for life, right? So the children learn already at an early age what healthy and delicious food can be like. And we have 2 main programs, one in the UK and one in Germany, and they're quite different. So in Germany, we work directly with the children, and we give cookery workshops so they can learn how to cook delicious and healthy food. And we've so far reached 12,000 children in Germany. In the UK, we work with the school caterers, and we train them and give them workshops and the confidence and knowledge how to create healthy meals. And we are now working with 1/3 of the local authorities, which is 7,500 schools. And we've swapped over 37 million meals already since we began. So
what lessons can Spain learn from these cases?
Yeah, so what we did last year was launch the Global School Food Network. And we now have over 60 organizations from 45 countries joining the School Food Network, learning from each other. And here in Catalonia, FADA is part of that network, and they're doing great work.
Which are the more recent developments in Spain that from ProVeg International you see and you monitor? We know that you monitor everything, how Spain is working, or Italy is working, everyone. How about Spain?
Yeah, so we do research across Europe, and what we found is that a lot of Europeans are now reducing their meat consumption, and that's also the case in Spain. So a lot of plant-based dairy, a lot of plant-based meat alternatives have really grown since the last 2-3 years. Not so bad, but there is still room for improvement. For example, in the plant-based meat alternative market, it ranks 7th in Europe. So there's still room
7th in Europe.
Yeah, so there's still room for further expansion.
So which are the main challenges that got Spain to improve and to make more alternative of meat? And
yeah, one of the main challenges is, of course, inflation. And we've seen that around the world, where plant-based products have become a bit expensive compared to the meat-based products, which are subsidized. there is definitely room for further expansion, and there's a lot of interest. I think consumers are changing their habits to more healthy and sustainable food. The cost of the products becomes a bit too expensive.
Too expensive.
Yes, and what we've seen everywhere, also in the UK, but in other European countries, is that people cannot afford them anymore, and then the businesses go out of business. So they need support, they need government investment, research and development. Yes, and for example, in Germany, the price is now similar in Lidl, and that's also the case in the Netherlands. And then you can see that many more people buy the plant-based products. And you don't have to buy the luxury products to eat a healthy vegan diet, of course. Other challenges have also been, for example, the drought here. Yeah, and that kind of affected nut production. So that was also a challenge. But we think that Spain has a lot of opportunity to grow and expand the production.
You think about the youth generation, they will be our inspiration, or they will have a lot of challenges ahead?
I think both, yes.
Both.
I'm very, very inspired by the younger generation. They are so much more knowledgeable and active already. They're not only the leaders of tomorrow, but already involved now in activism and taking leadership in, for example, our youth board for the United Nations. And yes, we have 20 youth leaders from around the world who are part of the United Nations Youth Board, helping us to organize activities and give speeches at United Nations events. And we also launched 5 years ago the first Food Innovation Challenge in Asia, where students were asked to come up with a creative concept for new food development with companies. And now we're in the 5th year already. And last year we had more than 1,100 students participate from 23 countries and 260 universities. And this year we're opening it up to everyone. And the students can win cash awards or sometimes internships with companies. So it's a real career prospect for them.
Com incorpora les consideracions ètiques del benestar animal en les seves campanyes? Quines iniciatives per promoure no només una nutrició plant-based, but un estil de vida plant-based? How do the ProVeg International incorporate this animal welfare consideration into your work?
Yeah, it's a good question. We actually don't really talk about animals very much. We have the 5 pros, and one of them is pro-animals. And we also have pro-taste, pro-health,
yes,
pro-environment, and pro-justice. Those are the reasons to be pro-veg.
Yeah, indeed.
And of course, animals are really important, but we do not talk about them because we found that it's easier to open doors, for example, with policymakers, if we don't talk about the animal issues and we just focus on food, on plant-based food, fermented food, cultivated food, and we leave the animal organizations to talk about the animals. So we complement each other. Okay. One example of that is our Dietary Guidelines Initiative. And worldwide, we've looked at 100 countries or more and the dietary guidelines to see how animal-friendly, vegetarian-friendly they are. And we've done a ranking, and now we're engaging with organizations and with policymakers to improve the dietary guidelines. And I think that Spain can, again, improve a little bit in this area. I can't remember what it was, maybe 30 or so in the ranking.
So which are your tastes about the vegan food? Did you try something here?
Yes, it's a hard question. I have no specific favorite, but I really like Thai green curry, and I like the Thai curry here.
Thank you very much. Volia demanar si algú té alguna pregunta de fer a la Jasmijn. Ara és el moment.
My wife and I moved from Denmark to Spain 3 years ago. In Denmark, it's very normal. It's almost mandatory to have vegan options in schools and universities. Our oldest daughter goes to a school where there are more than 100 pupils. She's the only vegan pupil there. And she's sometimes socially isolated. And she gets very bad food in school because they just take off the meat thing and gives her the rest. So I would like to have your recommendation on how we can have a constructive dialogue with good recommendations for that school that can be implemented easily and fast and in a positive way.
First of all, good that you mentioned Denmark. I was going to mention it because it's the first country that implemented a national action plan on plant-based food. And it's now trying to be an inspiration to the rest of the world. But yeah, it takes time. So I would recommend for now to visit the UK School Plates website. There's a lot of information there about nutrition, about sustainability. the schools in the UK are focused on sustainability. That's the main driver for them. But it could also be cost, it could be health, it could be different arguments. So you need to find out what the school's most interested in, who is responsible, the caterer or the manager, and then get an ally, get someone who is also interested in that topic, and offer more alternatives to children who want to have an ethical choice. Normally we work with the school caterers, but parents can also take initiative if it is driven by, request for fair options. Happy to talk more further later if you want.
I'll find you. Thank you.
I would like to know how you implement a good strategy in a country like Spain, where the dairy industry, the industry of animals, is as big and has such influence in the government to change things. Sorry for my English, but I would like to know how you can do it in a country like this, because it's really, really, really hard.
Yes, and that was the same in Denmark, because in Denmark they talk to all the different stakeholders, including the farmers and the agricultural unions. So we need to demonstrate that there are livelihoods, alternative livelihoods, and we're not taking something away, but we're helping farmers to support better livelihoods. And the Spanish government is now working on a national food strategy. So this is a good time to actually make representations and work with the government, the allies that are in government who are interested in a more sustainable transition. Because Spain is very much facing droughts and climate impacts. Something needs to change, and the animal industry takes up far too much water, land. It doesn't make sense. We need to change. We need to transition.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Gràcies a tothom per escoltar i estar aquí amb nosaltres.
Thank you.